I think it's just they probably can't get any because yeah. It's also said like even walking took me longer than usual because I had to like come a different route because everything's blocked off. Yeah. Yeah. Because when I was watching lots of people finish the race, so they have medals and things. There were loads and loads of people coming through the streets. Anyway, yeah. Maybe the races go. I think yeah, the other races. Yeah. Yeah. What seems to be illegal is it going?
Kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our communities. And their love continues to bless the world through us. Good morning. Welcome to Cross Street Chapel's Sunday service, a very special service today as we mark the 5th anniversary of the Manchester Arena attack, as we hold the lives of the 22 who were killed in our hearts, as well as all people who were injured and all who were affected, including ourselves, including our community in the city of Manchester and the world. And so it is, of course, as I often say, that whatever has brought you into this space may be that memory, that time for tears and sadness, though you may come with joy and celebration, a recognition of the hope that springs eternal within our hearts. So if you come here to rejoice, I hope you can find that, as well as some words of wisdom, and as always, a chance to rest with the divine. Whatever you seek, I hope it will be found, as well as more community. So we started our service by lighting the chalice with these words of Florence Caplau. And now we turn to a few words of worship from Lucinda Stevens Duncan. Source of all life, we celebrate life's beauty. We are a part of life's joy. We know that both life and death are real. We never would choose to part with one we have loved, but whenever there is great love, there is great memory, a great understanding that we carry in ourselves the best of the life that is gone. May we show our love and celebrate the life remembered in our daily small kindnesses and give thanks for the love that we share. Amen. And please join with me as we sing our first hymn in the Purple Book, number 89, Let There Be Light, hymn number 89. Let there be light, let there be understanding, let all the nations come.
Oh, open my wonder, open my love. Perish, Lord, perish the angry judgment, perish the foes and hunger, perish the fight for death. Let there be light, open our hearts to wonder. Perish the way of terror, hollow the world, God. Let us turn now to a time of prayer. This is concluded with our covenant, which you'll find in your order of worship, as well as printed on the screen for those watching at home. So these are the words of Tess Ward. Tender God, who knows our griefs, comfort all who mourn this day. Be with those whose loved ones returned in their dreams, and who on waking must remember again. Be with them when the world feels large and harsh and cruel, when people still get on buses and go to work in the morning, and the news plays the same theme at 6 o'clock in the evening. Contain them when their longing feels too vast to be held within, and the sky does not feel large enough to rage at. Meet us where we hurt this day. Bear our pain and anger, our tears and our loneliness. Bear the questions that have no answer, and in our darkness, give us hope. Amen. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Our first reading today is a short story that I wrote a while back. And I've given it at a few other churches. I think I've given it here on a Wednesday, perhaps, but I don't know about a Sunday. It's entitled The King and His Castle. There was once a king who ruled his kingdom justly. He was liked by his subjects and held in high esteem. His kingdom covered a large expanse with many fields for the people to grow their food. Once, however, there was an attack by a neighboring kingdom. The just king had a very able military, so the war was short, with few casualties. But the incident still disturbed the king. He lay awake at night, pondering what might happen if his kingdom was attacked again. Finally, he resolved to protect his people from any calamities that might fall their way. He set about building a huge wall, so high that no enemy could penetrate it. It cut away some of the fields, but the king reasoned it was also for the best. Food was still available, and the people still survived. Many years later, the rainy season came and stayed. No one remembered such a long deluge. The water collected by the wall, and many of the people who lived on the edge of the city became sick and died. Seeing this calamity as an attack, the king once again resolved to build another wall. And this again cut off more fields, and so the people began to feel hunger. Many years later, the plague hit the city. Lots of people became very ill, and the weakest people died. The king built another wall to protect the people, and they began to forget what lay outside the now small kingdom. They were often sick, poor, and always hungry. The king, having lived a long life, died and left his people. They continued to live in the kingdom as best they could, but everyone was so busy trying to grow enough food that no one looked after the wall. So eventually, it crumbled away, and they saw some of the territory that had been lost. They could grow more food and begin to prosper. Then the winds and the rain came and tore down the second wall. Again, the people saw their kingdom expand, and they enjoyed this luxury of space. They needed no help with that final and first wall. Eager to see what was on the other side, they broke the mortar and chiseled away the stone. And on the other side, they saw the verdant fields that they had abandoned so long ago. And they finally knew the pleasure of freedom. The King in His Castle, a short story. We now have a lighting of candles. These are slightly different from normal, not from our regular joys and concerns, but we light candles for all the victims. We mark, as I said, 5 years ago today. We light candles for all who've been injured, all who've been affected, all the people who helped, both professionals and volunteers. And we light candles for all who have known violence the world over. Those the injured, the affected, the assistance. And you are invited, if you wish, to light a candle as well in your own time. We turn now to our next hymn in the Green Book, number 180, This Old World, hymn number 180.
This old world is full of sorrow, full of sickness, weak and sore. If you love your neighbor truly, love will come to the Lord. We're all children of one family. We're all brothers, sisters too. If you cherish one another, love and friendship come to you. This old world can be a garden full of faith and it's full of good. If we love our neighbors truly, we must see them face to face. It is said now, love thy neighbor, and we know well that is true. This is some of human labor, true for me as well as you.
Our second reading today comes from the Reverend Nancy Schaefer. It's a beautiful poem titled, Because We Spill Not Only Milk. Because we spill not only milk, knocking it over with an elbow when we reach to wipe a small face, but also spill seed on soil we thought was fertile but isn't, and also spill whole lives, and only later see in fading light how much is gone and we hadn't intended it. Because we tear not only cloth, thinking to find a true edge and instead making only a hole, but also tear friendships, when we grow, and whole mountainsides because we are so many and we want to live right where black oaks lived, once very quietly and still. Because we forget not only what we are doing in the kitchen and have to go back to the room we were in before, remember why it was we left, but also forget entire lexicons of joy and how we lost ourselves for hours, yet all that time were clearly found and held. And also forget the hungry not at our table. Because we weep not only at jade plants caught in freeze and precious papers left in rain, but also at legs that no longer walk or never did, although from the outside they look like most others. And also weep at words said once as though they might be rearranged, but which, once loose, refuse to return, and we are helpless. Because we are imperfect and love so deeply we will never have enough days. We need the gift of starting over, beginning again. Just this constant good, this saving hope. Because we spill not only milk, by Nancy Schaefer. Let us return now to a time of prayer with these words of Heather Brion Starr. May I move gently through this cloudy, murky, gray day. May I remember that this is just one day and that showing up is at least half of what is asked of me. May I set aside my underlying anxiety that I will not get to everything and put my trust and faith onto the riverbank of human community. We are working together. I am not alone. There is a love holding me that is unconcerned with my day's list and more concerned with my spirit's survival, even its thriving in this beautiful, challenging world. May we remember that Rome wasn't built in a day, that our efforts are part of an ongoing stream of efforts, of lives being lived beside one another, shoring up this world. May what little I do today be for the greater good. May I be gentle with others today, as I long for others to be gentle with me. May it be so. Amen. And so we now enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. We turn to our next hymn in the Green Book, number 171, What Love Can Do, hymn number 171.
When this day is over, our minutes and dust, still our violence will the lonely can free all this not simple order. And will not know darkness, loneliness, and though the world's divided, nations, churches, sacredness, flowers, dirt, and books, all truths, and what love can make us think love as a flower. Oh, so once more we fellowship to see and understand, draws far and near, and no one can stand in the sovereign door. Love can pour from all our songs, one song, one.
There wasn't a sound that I heard, though at the time I lived only about 10 minutes away. It was a slow realization painted in blue, for we seemed to notice out of our window emergency vehicles slowly encompassing us, stretching down the road and into the distance. Social media proved to be a font of both knowledge and misinformation. Not necessarily calculated, unintentional, and accidental. And sure enough, slowly, the facts, a bombing, the foyer just outside the arena, the loss of life, became the overwhelming element of Facebook posts and Twitter feeds. And I saw a range of emotions over the following week. The defiance, the anger, the upset, the despondent, the numb. Every day there was some memorial, some gathering. The flowers in St. Anne's Square grew and grew until the makeshift bouquet took over the whole space. And amidst the clamor of the city, which is well known, this space became sacred, quiet. Even with news crews filming sudden appearances by Andy Burnham, somehow the noise and the rancor dissipated. As if pulled in by those flowers. The bombing happened on a Monday evening, and we opened the chapel Tuesday for anyone needing a space for reflection and solace. And the first of many vigils took place in Albert Square that evening. Our Wednesday service and Friday recital, given by Ugnius, were both committed to healing torn spirits. And through the week I reflected as best as I was able. And on Sunday we gathered flowers to take to St. Anne's Square. The city's processing of the arena bombing carries on. just as it will for all victims and all who are affected by violence. 5 years on, and the official memorial, the Glade of Light, has opened, and our hearts may feel tender once again. We may feel vulnerable as memories come to the forefront of our lives. There was a perception that Manchester responded differently than other cities, something that I can never feel quite confident believing. We have a lot to be proud of, but I will take a moment to acknowledge that we also have a bit of a history of hagiography, perhaps bigging ourselves up a little bit too much, setting ourselves out from the crowd. But that Wednesday, the Guardian's view on responding to terror was simply be Manchester. Be Manchester. We have needed this time to understand what has happened, but the world and Manchester have carried on. Even looking back 5 years ago that week, there was an attack on Coptic Christians on the 26th, and a bombing in Kabul on the 31st. And like a chain, you can follow these atrocities across the planet as people are injured, maimed, and killed, all for a number of causes and ideologies which are separate, save for their common roots of hatred and fear. And it carries on today. The attempt by Putin to claim Ukraine under the guise of denazification brings terror and violence upon the people, and in our witnessing, upon the world. Just last week, there was the shooting in Buffalo. The rising tide of strong men these past several decades challenges the value of tolerance and diversity that we espouse. It is easy and forgivable to feel overwhelmed in these circumstances, to imagine our voices are too quiet, our bodies too weak, our collective too small, to challenge what feels as inevitable as the rising sea. Our story today about the people who became more and more insular, who thought building walls in their kingdom would give them safety, can serve as an illustration of the choice that we face. We can harden our hearts. We can put up emotional defenses. We can barricade ourselves from perceived threats and enemies. But all the while, we will find our landscape becoming smaller and smaller. And our capacity to grow diminishes. Our capacity to nourish wanes. And the cost of this safety is an antiseptic upon the spirit. Visiting the memorial, visit the memorial and feel vulnerable. Reach out to those who are hurting. And yes, it might be tiring, and I think many of us are more tired than we may suspect, but it will be enriching as well. Reframe your choices so a knee-jerk defensiveness is the lesser option, where stepping forward in love, though not without risk, yields the greater reward. The Guardian's view that the world should be Manchester was, I think, rooted not only in their history. The article makes reference to the Peterloo Massacre and centuries of dissent, But also in that Tuesday vigil, there was a defiance in the air, a commitment that hatred would not rule over the city. Fear would not prevent the many from gathering. The words of the poet Tony Walsh, speaking of greater Manchester spirit, northern grit, northern wit, and greater Manchester's lyrics. This love song to the city became a rallying cry, allowing people to direct anger towards hope. It connected the people. So many young, so many adopted or new Mancunians, such as myself, to its proud history of welcome and respect. Setting aside this hagiography, we remember as well the increase in hate crimes, the Islamophobia that coursed through the city. Not all were committed to tolerance, and we must acknowledge this to commit ourselves to more just and loving actions. "5 years on, and the world is still injured. But each day affords us a new opportunity to speak kindly, act lovingly, give generously. 5 years on, and the world still suffers from hatred. But we can bring something greater: recognition and respect to those who are injured. 5 years on, and the world feels catapulted towards a new darkness, with nations becoming more insular and suspicious. Martin Luther King said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." So let's do that. Let's drive out hate with love, give light to those in the dark, act each day with kindness and hospitality, as the volunteers did 5 years ago. We can step back, build our walls, shut ourselves inside, or we can reach out to those in need, finding in them a blessing for ourselves as well. For we are them, in essence. We are all one, all in need of care and support, all at risk of violence and hatred. May we know love, know light, and bring to the world compassion and peace.